We're in Way Media.
Right, Mr. Walters?
You see that guy over there? Now, he's an actor. The guy on the phone, he's a prize fighter. Me, I'm a cab driver. I'm the only cab driver in this place.
Good evening and welcome to Night, Mr. Walters, a taxi podcast. I'm HP, your co-host, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Father Malone. Father Malone, how are you this evening?
I'm good. I was so happy to spend some time with one of the cast members of Caveman.
Good call. We're talking Taxi Season 4, Episode 6, Like Father, Like Son. This was written by David Lloyd and directed by James Burrows. Reminder, we're doing these shows in broadcast order and not in order of filming. This episode, we begin in the garage, Father Malone. Tony comes in. He's carrying a letter, and he's bemoaning his bad luck.
Let me jump in here, HP. Let me start this episode, if I might, because
Sure.
this is so sitcom tropey. He's in the background. He opens an envelope. He goes, "Oh, why me?" And I thought, "Oh, jury duty, huh?"
That's 100%. I wrote down, this is the universal sitcom sign for jury duty. Because he comes in, he's got the letter, and he's like, "Oh, why?" Here's the thing. Let me back up for a minute here. Father Malone, have you ever served on a jury?
I have been called to, and I have, responded that I would definitely come. And then the morning that I was supposed to go, I received a phone call telling me that I would not be, that the case wasn't going forward. So I was relieved of duty.
Sure. I've been called several times, and once I even had to serve on a jury over 2 days. And I will tell you this. Yes, it's an interruption in your daily life. Yeah, you might have to miss a couple of days of work or whatever, but I found it very interesting because it's something that you don't really get to do all that often. And sometimes maybe you get lucky and you get an interesting case. The case I had wasn't incredibly interesting, but it was, it is, there's something to be said for seeing the justice system in action and being a part of it. So when I see, sitcom characters bemoaning their bad luck because they have to go to jury duty, I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Like that's a foundational piece of this country. I don't care if you don't want to do it, just do it. It's your civic duty to do that.
I had a friend who threw away every jury summons he received. And I said, "You're going to get in trouble for doing that." And he said, "What do you mean? Like, they can't prove I received that." And he was right.
I thought you were going to say you got arrested or something. They never caught up
No,
to him.
he's absolutely right, because at the time it was just by mail. They can say we sent it to you. Like, how else were you going to know other than receiving it in the mail? And if you didn't receive it, then how can you be culpable? I mean, clearly he was just throwing them away, but he had a point.
That's fine for him, but for me, I always find it interesting to go and try to serve on a jury. The whole process fascinates me, so I can't really see where Tony's coming from here. Sure enough, we're right. He's complaining about jury duty, and the phone rings in the garage. Jim is nearby. He wakes up. He's woken up. Jim is woken up. He's sitting there.
How did Dad get the fucking payphone number?
I don't, well, no, he looked it up in the yellow pages. I don't have a problem
And he
with
would
that.
have gotten the cage, because if you want to get a cab, you're not calling the goddamn payphone. You're calling Sunshine Cab. Look, I know this is just a convenient thing, and I keep bringing it up because it bothers me every time. But anyway.
No, I hear you.
I'll stop with that particular harangue, because I'm sure it's going to continue on into season 5.
Well, are you suggesting that the phone on the concrete pillar is unlisted?
No, I'm not suggesting that, but I don't think he would look. How do you look up the payphone at Sunshine Cab? Wouldn't you just look up Sunshine Cab and call?
The short answer on that is, if you remember, we met. What we're going to find out is that it's Alex's father looking for him. Now, we remember back in, I think it was season 2, Alex's father had a health scare, and Alex went to see him in the hospital. My guess is, to answer your question, it's not a very funny response, but probably at that point, Alex might have said, in a fit of sympathy, might have said, "Look, Dad, if you ever have a problem, call this number. Here's where I can be reached."
Okay,
Right?
in this case, there's some continuity, but ordinarily I'm just like, what are they doing?
True. So Jim picks up the phone and answers it. Jim tells Alex it's for him, and Alex is walking towards the pillar. As he's walking, he asks Jim who it is, And Jim says, "It's your father." And at that point, Alex does an immediate about face and
It's a
says, "I don't
comic
want to talk to him."
turnaround. Oh, no, no, don't want that.
It's like, whoop, no, I'll be turning around. Jim says, "Your father says it's important. You need to talk to him." Alex says that they've only talked once in the last 20 years. Why is he calling now? And that one time was, as I mentioned, the previous episode a few seasons ago where they saw each other for the first time in 20 years. So
It's a lot of I won't do it. We're gonna do it. You do it. Get the phone. No, I won't get the phone. And then Elaine, with her fucking hypnotically horrible sweater dress, convinces him to get to take the phone. It's the worst look she's ever had. I cannot abide a sweater dress.
oh, I don't know. I think she's had some worse looks than this.
Not
I'm not
than this. Oh no. You know what? I can understand like a knitted dress, something, but with form. This fucking, it's like you're wearing a sweater, and then somebody came and just started knitting while you were asleep, and they just made it an extra 2 or 3 feet long. It's absurd.
It is very ill-fitting. I'll give you that. But
Like a sack, like a.
knit a sack made of yarn.
It's awful.
You've brought up in the past, though, there are certain colors that you think should not be used.
Red. If it were red, it would be the most hellacious outfit in television history. At least it's not that. It's just some drab, like gray.
All right. I didn't think it was as bad as it's gotten, but I will grant you that it's not her most flattering look.
Jesus Christ. Later on in this episode, she joins the Fantastic Four, so I don't know what the hell is happening.
A lot of piping in that with that outfit. So you're right. Elaine drags Alex bodily over to the phone, and then Alex starts talking. Louis sidles over to the rest of the cabbies and asks, "What's going on in the garage? What's the scuttlebutt? What's the gossip?" And they all play coy, except Jim, who spills the beans about Alex's call and Tony's jury duty, and of course Louis mocks Dum Dum
No,
Tony.
wait. No, here's my favorite part of the episode, honestly, HB.
Yeah?
Is that he's like, look, Alex is talking to his dad, Louis, and his jury duty. And Elaine looks at him like, how dare you betray us? And he's just like, what? Who cares? And I totally agree with him. Who gives a shit? Just make him go away. This is happening, that's happening. Take your fucking massive rumor mill and go back to the fucking cage, Luella Parsons.
Yeah. I mean, but this thing with Louis knowing about Alex and his father, that's going to come back. We're going to see that come back in this episode.
That was a reference to our 70-year-old listeners, the Luella Parsons.
Luella Parsons.
Yeah. Kudos to you. Every day's a gift, isn't it?
Just then, Alex comes off the phone and tells everybody that his father wants to take him out to lunch. The father has said to Alex, "Look, we've been strangers for so long. It's time that we became friends." And the father is on his way over to the garage. Jim is confused about all that he's saying. Alex reminds him that his father walked out on their family, and he's only seen his father the one time he was in the hospital a couple seasons ago. Other than that, he's had no contact with his father.
That's when we met Alex's sister, and she like fucking got on him and like, you got to go fucking talk to dad, you prick.
Clearly, after this brief moment of concern for his father, they haven't seen each other again in the ensuing 2 or 3 years since then. So,
yeah, but you know what? I would go for a free lunch.
Alex is very stung by this whole thing, and I can't blame him if the father truly walked out on this family, didn't provide them any support financially or anything else. I would hold a grudge too if I were Alex, but it felt like in that previous episode in the hospital that maybe he had a breakthrough in how he views his father, and maybe he wised up, but clearly that's not the case. Elaine wonders why Alex's father is in town, and Alex sheepishly admits to her that he's been living in New York since 1974. And Elaine is aghast. Like, he's been here this whole time and you've never taken the time to go see him or whatever. Alex tells the cabbies, "Look, my father's always been a ladies' man. Every woman is a challenge to him. So he's kind of bad news." And Elaine says, "He's probably just a sweet old man now." Just then, Alex spies him coming in, and he dashes away to the bench near the coffee machine, and then in walks Alex's father, Joe, once again, played by Jack Gilford.
Ah,
Also somebody
yes.
probably familiar to people who know Luella Parsons, probably the same group of people. The Venn diagram on Luella Parsons and Jack Gilford is probably a match in the middle there, Father Malone. So
Yeah, I love Jack Guilford.
Jack Gilford is, look, if you're gonna pick somebody who you adore, despite the fact that he is somebody who left his family and is really not a nice guy for doing these things, you're gonna pick Jack Gilford. The man he could charm the pants off of anybody. He seems like such a gentle, sweet guy.
He's the last person I would have expected to be Alex's father, but he sometimes seems completely appropriate for it.
They obviously have more to do in this episode than they did in the previous. The previous one, it was just kind of a surprise reveal, and they have a nice moment together. But in this one, they have several scenes together and a lot of dialogue together. So I agree with you. Like by the end of it, he seems wholly appropriate as Alex's father for a variety of reasons.
And he's in one of my favorite movies from 1971, and it inspired the name of one of my favorite bands of all time. They Might Be Giants with George C. Scott and Joanne Woodward, where she's a psychiatrist named her last name is Watson, and one of her patients comes in. It's George C. Scott, and he believes he's Sherlock Holmes, and then they go off and have adventures together. And Jack Guilford is George C. Scott's character's best friend, and they have some adventures as well. Anyway, They Might Be Giants. Everybody, check that one out.
What a great piece of trivia. Jack Gilford is marvelous. I mean, he's such a. I can't say I'm not familiar with a lot of what he's done, his oeuvre, but he seems like such a sweet guy. If you're gonna have anybody that you want to root for, despite the fact that he's kind of a jerk, Jack Gilford's your guy. There's no way you can hate the guy. And that plays into this episode, as we'll see. So Alex and Joe have an awkward hello. Alex kind of introduces him to the rest of the cabbies as we cut to Mario's. Now Alex and Joe are there. They're sitting at a
Why?
table.
Why would they go to Mario's to eat? Alex hates it there to eat.
Well, and we come to find out that Joe actually has a bit of money from his second wife. So it's not as if he couldn't afford to take Alex somewhere nice and fancy.
You know what? In fact, yeah, it's his character is initiating this thing, and he says, "Let's go out to eat." Wouldn't he go to some fancy place, or at least some place with menus that aren't like under fucking lamination?
He would, but I could also see Alex being protective and saying, "Look, if we're going to go eat, we're going to do it on my turf. Like I want to be on solid ground when I'm dealing with you, Joe."
So
I could
let's
see
go
him
across
doing
the street to the pizza place because fucking Mario's is terrible.
Yeah, well, I could see him, but also I could also see Alex paying lip service and going, "Yeah, let's eat," but it'll be quick. I'm not that far from the garage, and I can get it over with. So
The real reason is because they need Louis to be there too.
this is true because Louis couldn't afford to go to a fancy restaurant that they could probably go to. So they're commiserating awkwardly during this lunch, but Joe cops to how wrong it was to cheat on Alex's mother and leave the family. But he does say that he was smart enough to realize that he'd be a bad influence on the kids, and leaving was probably the best thing that he could do, which is a weird way to rationalize the whole thing. But he's probably not entirely wrong. That maybe in his mind he was sparing the kids from being unduly influenced by a scoundrel, if you will. It doesn't make it right. I'm not suggesting.
No, it's total bullshit. But
Yeah.
whatever. That's
He's
okay.
at a minimum, he's rationalizing it to himself in a way. Joe says that he's not saying that Alex and he have to be best buddies or even close, but can't they just be two guys that get along with each other? And this kind of breaks away a little bit at Alex's walls, and he reluctantly agrees to give it a shot with Joe.
Let me say this about Joe Rieger. He definitely knows who he is, and he's not going to be anything but. And that's admirable.
Yeah,
I mean, he's a shit of a human being, obviously, as a father, and probably a terrible partner. But he is who he is.
he is, and I think part of that is the fact that he's presumably in his 70s at this point. I think actually Jack Guilford was in his early 70s during this episode. So there's an element of probably. I mean, I don't think he would be any much different when he was a younger man. But I think when you reach a certain age, you're like, I'm not going to change anyway. What am I going to change for? I'm in my 70s. I am who I am, and whatever. It's just age gives you that luxury. And I think that's part of it too. So Joe asks Alex why he didn't remarry after he divorced his wife. And Alex says it's been hard finding a woman that he's interested in. He says he wants someone who looks at the world and doesn't take it too seriously, and someone who's not afraid to ask for what she wants. And just at that point, a woman at the next table asks Alex for a newspaper. She says she wants to read the Doonesbury comic on Alexander Haig. So this is ticking all of the boxes
Wow.
in fine comedic fashion. Now, the woman at the next table.
Hey, what year is it, by the way? Doonesbury and Alexander Haig.
This immediately dates the episode. It's 81, I think, or 82. 81.
Clearly.
Yeah. The woman who is now part of this episode is played by an actress named Barbara Babcock, which I think we've all seen her in a million things. She's a veteran of tons of movies and TV shows. Most notably, she was in Hill Street Blues. I think she won an Emmy for Hill Street Blues, in fact. Personally, I always found her sort of matronly, not really someone I would consider like a sexy woman. She's sort of in the same category as Holland Taylor from Bosom Buddies. Do you remember who that is?
Oh, yeah, but I thought Holland Taylor was extremely sexy, honestly.
Did you? Did you? Okay. I sort of put them. They felt like maybe the same age range, the contemporaries of each other. So
But I get the type you're talking about, but I just happen to be turned on by that kind of,
okay.
lady, so what can I tell you, man?
what Joe is seeing, and then Alex is not immediately seeing, is that clearly this woman is perfect for him. So, like I said, Joe watches this play out, and he points out to Alex that she fits his description of the perfect woman, and he gets up and starts talking to the woman and tells her that Alex just described the perfect woman, and he described you to a T. We're already seeing Joe has this incredible charm and this confidence that he can just get up and talk to this woman with no context at all.
See, this is why you would tolerate him, because he's that guy, and you want to be with that guy sometimes.
He's the epitome of charm, for a lot of reasons. He just seems like such a sweet, charming old man. So he gets her name. Her name is Karen. And essentially, Joe sets the two of them up, Alex and Karen, out on a date tomorrow night. By the way, as this is all transpiring, Louis is observing all of this silently from the bar. The camera makes a point. Yeah.
This is how you get Louis out of his cage and involved in an episode. This is what his purpose is. I don't need to feel bad for him. I need him to be as mean as he can be.
Yes, within bounds, though. Like,
oh, yeah, not raping people, obviously.
Not criminal, just a bad, an annoying asshole, basically. So he's watching all this happen. And Alex says his goodbye to Tommy, TJ Castronova, back again.
TJ Castronova got time on his hands.
He says bye to Karen and he leaves. But meanwhile, after he leaves, Joe can't help himself, clearly. He goes over to Karen and introduces himself to her. Never, by the way, mentioning that he's Alex's father.
No, he gives her a fake name. He says, like, I'm Joe McGinty.
Did he? I didn't think he's...
Yes!
Oh, I thought he just said, I'm Joe.
No, he gave her a false last name.
Oh, I must have missed
That's the
that
joke. There was a joke at that. Like, there was an audience laughing moment.
Oh.
Audience laughing moment. I'm good with English.
Fire bad. So Joe ingratiates himself to Karen, and he invites her to some kind of political comedy symposium that features Art Buchwald.
And it's Jules Pfeiffer. It sounds like a fucking hoot, man. I would go. Remember Art Buchwald? I liked Art Buchwald. He was funny. Remember he sued Eddie Murphy and he won?
Oh, for Coming to America, that's right. Because he wrote the story that it was based on, right?
He wrote a treatment called Queen for a Day.
But these are all Art Buchwald, Jules Pfeiffer. These are all very contemporary references that our under 35 listeners are just going to eat up completely, right?
Jules Pfeiffer just coming off the huge success of his screenplay for Popeye.
Did he write the screenplay for Popeye, really?
He did, actually.
Oh, I didn't know that. Karen is reluctant to go on this date with Joe because she says that, didn't you just make a date with me and your friend? And Joe says, look, this isn't really a date. And Alex isn't really my friend because I've only seen him twice in the last 20 years. Again, neglecting to mention the fact that he's Alex's father.
These are lies by omission.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a scumbag, but a lovable one. And again, Louis is still observing all of this. Now he's at a table, and I think he has a menu over his face to
Yeah,
hide
he's
himself.
great here. He's enjoying this so much.
It's so great because you get a great payoff with Louis. So Joe escorts Karen out of Mario's, and Louis, at this point, he can't contain his glee at the situation as we fade to commercial. Now we cut back to the garage and we fade back in as Tony walks in, and Elaine wonders why Tony isn't at jury duty. And Tony says he kept getting turned down by the lawyers. Apparently, Dum Dum Tony answered the question of length of residence with about 30 feet.
He's
Dun,
not
dun,
wrong.
dun, dun,
I mean, if you think of his apartment, that's about 30 feet, right?
That's true. Do you think that kid Brian is still living with Tony at this point? Remember they were gonna live together?
I think
They
that
cut
kid
cards?
died long ago.
maybe Tony like threw one punch too many and didn't know his own
Yeah, I think
strength.
they were sparring one night.
Pop! Oh, wake up, kid! Wake up, Brian! He won't wake up.
Oh,
Wake up,
Bobby,
kid!
you gotta get over here and help me transport a body. Don't say that over the phone.
So suddenly, Wheeler is complicit in a murder.
That's where this episode should have gone.
Maybe that's why Wheeler's not around anymore. Maybe he can't live with the guilt, so he avoids the garage entirely. Who knows?
Or Tony took care of him.
He took it.
No loose ends.
That's-
A conspiracy of one now.
yeah, but that would imply that. Well, actually, that I could see Tony doing that because that's a very simple way of. That's like a simple plan, right? Cutting all the loose ends. Got to
Yeah,
kill the
man.
brother. Yeah. So anyhow, Alex comes bopping in at this point. He's whistling. He seems to be happy. He gives Louis his take for the night or whatever.
Mr. Mango on my shoulder. Remember that?
No, what's that from?
From the movie Splash with Tom Hanks when after his first night with Daryl Hannah, he comes back to the fruit market and he's singing Zippity Doo Dah, but with fruit lyrics.
Ah, okay. I thought you were making reference to another Taxi episode with Mango. Interesting. Remember Mango? Chris Kattan played Mango.
How
on
can
SNL?
anyone forget Mango, the most annoying character of all time?
Not offensive at all. Not
Oh,
at all.
no, certainly not.
Definitely not. Elaine explains to Tony, because he's been away for a couple of days, that Alex has a new girlfriend. And she gives Tony the lowdown as a smiling Alex joins them at the card table. Elaine says, "You've been seeing a lot of Karen lately." And Alex replies, "Yeah, I guess I have been monopolizing her." This sends Louis into a laughing fit in the garage. He hears
Theatrical
this and
laughter.
it's very theatrical. Alex asks Louis if this has anything to do with Karen, and then Louis is set into further convulsions of laughter. Alex keeps pressing him on it, but Louis says, "Look, this is special, Riga." He says it can't just be blurted out. This is like a fine wine. He's like, first you uncork it.
Oh, here we go. It's some Marcel Marceau shit.
He does this miming. He's like, you uncork it, you let it breathe, and you let it you pour it, then you taste it. And every step that he's describing, he's miming it with his hands, like uncorking the thing.
Oh, he's
pouring
doing
it.
sound effects too. Glug, 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 glug.
Glug, 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 glug. It's so, but I love it because that would be the comparison that I would have drawn from Louis' intent with this whole thing. Like I could see him very easily comparing this to a fine wine, something you don't want to rush this. Louis doesn't want to rush the disclosure of what's happening with Joe. He wants to savor it like a fine wine. So Louis wonders to Alex kind of coyly if he's exclusive to Karen or if Karen is dating other guys. And Alex tries to be like, well, guess what? She's seen other guys and I'm okay with it, Louis. And Elaine asks Louis at this point, just come out with it. What are you getting at, Louis? Louis finally says, look, it takes some kind of guy to share a woman with his own father. And Louis says he was there. He saw the two of them leave Mario's together. This is the purest expression of glee that Louis could ever convey. He loves this. Alex, by comparison, it gets very stoic, and he leaves the garage. as we cut to the same B-roll that we've seen in the past of Alex walking into Mario's, but he's got the Barracuda, the white Barracuda jacket. It's the same one from the Angela episode, only they're banking on the fact that you couldn't quite tell that he's not wearing his usual slouch sweater as he walks in. But I can see that it's an incongruity in the film
Yeah,
here.
but you know what? We know B-roll now. We know it all because they've used it so often that I don't think even a casual like you're watching it syndicated every single day, you're probably not going to notice.
Yeah, but to be fair, no one as they're filming this is thinking to themselves, some asshole is going to be watching this on their computer and can go frame by frame to tell what I'm wearing or what they're wearing. They just figured like, look, if this is just a quick one pass thing on a TV set in 1982, no one's going to notice these little inconsistencies. So it's only really with the advent of HD and all of that stuff that some of this stuff comes to light. So
I
yeah,
love when they release a movie in HD, all the screenshots that start showing up in social media where like now you can see the stuntmen like super
yeah.
close up and it's like, "Oh my God, like how did this fool anybody?"
It is amazing. The one of the worst examples of that, and this wasn't even an HD thing. I remember when I was watching Pee Wee's Big Adventure for the first time on cable. Let's say it was at HBO or whatever.
Oh
And
no
the
no no!
mat,
This is the mat on the top and the
the
bottom
matting.
was yeah. When they transferred that to video, they didn't mat it correctly. So yeah, that's because when you saw it in the theater, you did not see the chain coming up through the bottom
Yeah,
of the basket.
it was the scene. People who don't know the movie by heart, it's Pee Wee's locking up his beloved bicycle, and he's pulling this endless chain, clown style, from one of the saddlebags. And on TV, they didn't properly mat the scene, so you can see that there's an opening in the bottom of the saddlebag where they're just feeding this chain. So it completely ruined the illusion. I'm sure, like you said, if I was in the theater, I wouldn't have thought twice about it, but it was a little
No, and they've
dismaying to see
corrected
that.
it since when they put it out on DVD and
Yeah,
Blu-ray and such.
we cut inside Mario's. Karen's at a table as Alex walks in. Alex confronts Karen about dating his father, and Karen scoffs at the suggestion, which relieves Alex immediately. Uh, but Karen knows what happened. She's been seeing Joe, his friend from the other night, Alex's friend from the other night, and someone must have mistook Joe for Alex's father. And this immediately sends Alex into a tailspin as he
Yeah, me and my mother.
yeah, he makes a joke about it and he says, "Yeah, Joe is my father." And rightfully so, Karen is completely aghast at this turn of events. You know, she's being deceived, basically deceived from Joe. Another
Oh,
mark
it's worse than
of
that because she fucked him. So she's been
yeah.
having sex with father and son here.
And they don't come out and say that she's been having sex, but there's some delicate way that Alex has of saying like, "Well, I guess how far did you go with him?" And she's like, "I went pretty far." And it's like, "Oh man, it's just awful." You know, I feel for her because, you know, she's the only innocent in this whole thing. I mean, she doesn't know who Joe was or is. So shame on Joe for being such a prick, you know?
Yeah, man. This
It's
is
not
kind of
good.
unforgivable.
It's this is something that I could see Louis doing, but Louis doesn't have the charm to pull it off. Alex, and here's Alex says, "Oh, it's not that bad. It's a good thing we nipped it in the bud for anything before anything embarrassing takes place." And then Karen's reaction is, "Yeah, she did go there. It is that embarrassing because without saying it, she's implying back to Alex that, yeah, I fucked your dad, basically." And Karen, again, like I said, is rightfully upset about Joe and the fact that he lied about not about being Alex's father. And Alex asks one thing. He says, "What is it about Joe? What makes him irresistible?" And because he admits, even though I hated Joe, he was always in awe of Joe's prowess with women. And Karen's response is, "He makes me laugh." She says he imitates soup, pea soup, she says. And but the main thing, and that sort of confuses Alex, and we'll see that wrapped up in a moment. But Karen says the main thing about Joe is that Joe loves women. And Alex says, "Look, I love women too. What are you talking about?"
No, you don't.
But Karen says, "Look, Joe really loves women." She says like he swooned at the way that she put on an earring or something. Like he is somebody who is clearly enamored of the female form and just loves women in any shape, size, whatever. He just loves women. The idea of women. Karen says that Joe is expecting her for dinner and she's going to go call him and give him a piece of her mind. But then Alex says, no, I'm going to go in person and I'll confront Joe. Don't worry about it. So then I like this. We cut to Joe's swanky apartment. It is really, it is like a luxury apartment. I wrote down here, there's a fucking giant fish tank in the middle of the apartment. I'm like, that's crazy set decoration, Father Malone. It's a working fish tank. What did you think of that?
I thought there was no fish in it, and then I think they made a joke to cover up the fact.
Well,
that,
yeah.
But it is impressive that it's there. The set design here is fantastic. They've been lacking for a long, long time. Whereas in those first two seasons, it was just like every fucking episode had some incredible second location we would go to. At least they've done something here finally.
Yeah, this feels like a real lived-in apartment because there's the fish tank, there's a couch, there's a little like dinner nook off to the side where Joe is setting the table for dinner for two. So it felt good. They're kind of back. The set decorators are back to their winning ways. I like that. So Joe answers the door, and then Alex barges in, yelling about how despicable he was, how Joe lied. But then, as he's in the mid rant, he catches himself and Alex exclaims, "This place is gorgeous." Like he can't help himself. He's like, "What what is this is amazing."
Good beat.
Yeah, and then this is my favorite scene in the whole show. The two of them interacting with one another is gold because they're both such professionals and it's effortless. So Joe says to Alex, yeah, his second wife left him a bundle. She was a doctor. So that's where he gets all this money to own this swanky pad. And then Alex, to your point, he notices that there's no fish in the fish tank. And that's where Joe explains. He said he always wanted a fish tank, but the fish are such a bother. Which I can see that. I know what you're saying. They didn't want to put fish in it because it's too onerous for like just a set decoration detail. But I could see Joe being like, I like the idea of a fish tank. I just didn't want to deal with the fish. So,
I can totally get behind it, but I do think he would have done something else with it. You know what I mean? Like, you would have put like a sunken galleon or something, or like a submarine. It's not. I don't know. It wouldn't have just been a tank of water. Like, well, I like the fish tank, but I don't like them fish.
sure, like one of those treasure chests that opens and closes.
Yeah,
with the
man, all that
bubbles.
cool shit. Like a
Yeah.
diver, like a little octopus in a cave.
I grew up with a fish tank in my room, Father Malone, and I never really saw the point. To be honest, I fish aren't really my type of pet, I guess.
You need the constant affection, do you?
I don't know. I always felt kind of bad for the fish because they're in this mirrored Groundhog Day type environment where nothing ever changes and they're just kind of bumping up against the sides of this fish tank. They don't. You have to be careful what kind of fish you put in there because maybe they'll attack and kill each other. And every day you're a little fearful that one of those fish is going to be floating at the top of the fish tank dead, which happened fairly often. So I never
The
really saw
only
the point.
creatures that make it out with a good deal in a fish tank are crustaceans. They seem to have a party in most fish tanks. They kind of like take it over and it becomes their territory, and they like fucking box with fish. Like, get out of here, fucking fish.
The only other fish, the only fish that I ever saw truly thrive in one of these fish tanks was I don't know what you call them, but they basically would adhere themselves to the side of the fish tank and eat the scum off the side of the tank. Have you ever
Yeah,
seen
that's
these
the only
things?
fish that should be in there other than the crabs down below.
Right, because they're bottom feeders. These things are just eating the scum on the side of the fish tank.
Yeah.
And they would live to a ripe old age. They couldn't get enough of this dirty fish tank.
Yeah, but you don't need an angelfish in there wondering what is wrong with his life.
Right. So I just never saw the point. But nevertheless, we'll proceed here. Alex is trying to go on with his rant about what an asshole Joe is, but then he stops himself again and he asks about this second marriage that Joe had. And Joe says, like I said, that she was a doctor, and he holds up this picture of a kid and he says, "This is your stepbrother Mel, Alex." And Alex is like, "Mel? I have a stepbrother?" This is all news to him. And I couldn't tell if it was a picture of, it was like a high school picture of some like dorky, looked like Anthony Michael Hall or something. I couldn't figure out if that was like the kid was really that young, or if the kid was actually like, now he was like a dentist in Van Nuys or something, and this was his high school picture.
Yeah, that was like his high school picture from like 1947. Though, you know?
It was black and white at a minimum. So, but yeah, Mel isn't a very very popular young person's name then or now. Alex keeps ranting. He says he doesn't respect anything that Joe stands for, and he never wants to see him again. Joe says, "Good. I'm glad you feel better. Now that that's settled, please leave because Karen's coming." Alex counters that she never wants to see him again either. Joe says, "What? I cooked my specialty for nothing?" And Alex says, "Well, what is your specialty?" And Joe says, "Oh, it's tuna casserole." And this upsets Alex because Alex is like, "That was Mom's specialty." And Joe says, "Yeah, I stole her recipe, but I made it better because she always used too much salt." And Alex couldn't get more upset. He's like, "You know what? She used the perfect amount of salt." He's so pissed at Joe right now. He doesn't even know where to go. But then Joe offers to have Alex over for dinner, and Alex is like incredulous. He's like, "You know what? You're not even bothered that I won't ever see you again, Joe?" He's so bald-faced about this. Joe says, "Look, sure, it would bother me if I don't see you again, but it's not true. You have to see me. You have to listen to me because I'm old, Alex. I will die, probably a long time before you, and anytime I call, you'll come. Because it might be the last time you ever see me, Alex. Tonight might be the last time you ever see me, in fact." That's, you know what? He's not wrong.
Yeah,
He's not
you
wrong
know
at
what?
all.
You're absolutely right. He's not wrong. And at that point, I would say, "You're absolutely right, Dad." And I would have thrown him out the fucking window. The rest of this episode is fucking bullshit. All this fucking, he's just a cutesy little old man, and "Oh, I'm gonna forgive you. Oh, yeah, come and sit with me, Alex. Kiss me on the head." Fuck you, old man. You know what? There comes a point in everyone's life where you think like, "Oh, this could be our last time." Good. There are certain people in my life who, if they were to say that to me, "What do you mean? Like, this could be I'm so old." I would say, "It's not soon enough, motherfucker."
Again, Alex is rightfully disgusted. He says, "Look, I don't like you, Joe." And again, Joe turns on the sweet old man charm and he says, "You know what? I like you." He says, he says, "Look, call it blood, call it genes, but every 10 years or so, I just gotta see you." And he goes on to tell Alex, "Look, you're all right. You're funny, and you're pretty good with the ladies." And Alex says, "Well, apparently you are too." And Joe says, "Oh, Karen," he says, "I just did the pea soup." And then Alex is like, "What the hell is the pea soup?" And I suspect I couldn't find any real evidence of this. I suspect this is probably something that Jack Gilford did in a nightclub act or something. But
Yeah, he was a mimic. That was his claim to fame when he started. He was a
sure.
vaudeville guy. Yeah.
So Joe says, "Thick pea soup coming to a furious boil," and he proceeds to do this, basically this impression on his face of pea soup starting to like beep, 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 like starting to boil, and he makes his cheeks kind of puff out in a very rhythmic fashion. It's very cute, and it actually is very, it looks like, it does look like pea soup coming to a boil.
It's a
And
precursor to the Kentucky Fried Theater's hilarious frying egg, where the Zucker brothers would just lay flat, spread eagled on the floor, and then start to bubble and flip over like an egg.
you mean like the actual like live Kentucky Fried Theater? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Well,
I
didn't
thought you
say
said
the Naked Gun.
no. I thought you said Kentucky Fried Movie, and I was confused for a
Okay.
minute.
Yeah, no, I got you.
That was, I filled in the blanks on that. That was my bad. Alex says, "Well, women really like that," and Joe says, "Yeah, it drives them nuts." He and this is, I think this is this is probably the crowning awfulness on this whole episode. Joe says, "Look, all you need to do, Alex, is kiss me on top of my head and join me for dinner." And Alex says, "I'm not going to do that." And Joe replies, "Your loss." So Joe or Alex starts to walk out of the apartment, and Joe sits down silently and starts to serve himself a plate of tuna casserole. Which, by the way, I can't think of anything more disgusting than tuna casserole. There's nothing to me that's appealing about that.
I
Have you ever
agree with
had?
you.
It
Oh yeah,
just
of
sounds.
course.
I've
Everyone
never.
on Earth, I think, has had it, and everyone has been disgusted by it. But somehow, see, people keep making it.
It's just. Ugh, it's just. So he's ladling out this tuna casserole on his plate, and then Alex is still going towards the door, and Joe makes a point of like click, 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 like banging his spoon on Alex's plate, serving him some of this tuna casserole. And this is all happening, like I said, with no dialogue or anything. And he even sprinkles a little bit of extra salt on Alex's portion, which I thought was kind of a nice touch because Alex said that the mother used the right amount of salt. So he puts a little extra salt on his. Finally, Alex looks back, he smiles, and he sits down with Joe to eat as we cut to this external B-roll of the Manhattan skyline that I think you described in the last episode. This is what we
Oh
close
no, this
on.
is this is a totally different one. The last one was the Empire State Building in total silhouette. This is like a twilight shot, specifically of the World Trade Center, just to
Yeah.
add an extra layer of eeriness to the end of this fuckaroo of an ending.
It is. Anyway, so we look at the Manhattan skyline and all its beauty as we end the episode. So now we're going to talk about yellow lights.
What does a yellow light mean?
Just a reminder, we grade our episodes on a scale of 1 to 5 yellow lights. 1 is the best, or 1 is the worst taxi episode. 5 is the best taxi episode. And as is our custom, we're going to throw it to you, Father Malone. What do you give like father, like son? Can't wait to hear this.
I give it 4 yellow lights, but I take away 1 yellow light because the ending is so fucking poor.
Wait a minute. If you hated Joe so much, the character, and you were so aggrieved at all of his fuckery in this episode, and it got to you to such a degree, how could you even give it 4 at the outset?
Because I recognize that my point of view in the way that I would approach the world isn't everyone's, and that very well might have worked on Alex Rieger. And I also recognize that all the performances in this episode are fucking sterling, and the direction is really good. And other than the fact that this has fallen desperately into sitcom land at the very last moment, everything leading up to that was interesting and fun. There were some good sort of moral quandaries going on in the middle of this very, very funny episode, but the way they chose to conclude it was the worst possible way, so they lost a yellow light there.
I gave this 3 yellow lights, so I guess we kind of landed at the same spot. For me, I think Hirsch and Guilford have chemistry for days, and Guilford, frankly, he enlivens what is a pretty stale sitcom premise. This is look, make no mistake, this is sitcom land, like you said. Like this is not one of the more realistic episodes. There's a lot of cases of mistaken identity and so forth, and a lot of silliness there. But also I love Louis' absolute glee at the situation and that whole bit with him pretending to uncork the wine and comparing this to a fine wine that he has to savor. I thought that was very worthwhile too. So 3 yellow lights. So somehow, even though we had wildly differing reactions to the final scene, we arrived at the same place. So go figure, Father Malone.
It's a crazy world, man. They ought to sell tickets.
It takes all kinds to make a world, Father Malone. So anyway, that's going to do it for this episode of Night, Mr. Walters. Father Malone, where can folks find you when you're not clocked into the garage?
I do a show called Midnight Viewing. HP is a co-host on that show. We do festivals together. We take a look at entire series of movies. We're currently involved in Star Trek Fest. So check us out over there.
Good stuff. And as for me, in addition to doing some of Father Malone's great fests, Trek Fest he talked about, I host the Noise Junkies music podcast. And I also have a Bandcamp site. Folks who don't know, I do a little bit of music here and there for Father Malone and some other stuff on the
All
Radio
my
Way
music,
Network.
a little bit. What are you talking about? Like I have 12 different shows, and HB has like come through on all of them.
So if you like any of the themes of any of Father Malone's content, I would encourage you to check out my Bandcamp site. It's hpmusicplace.bandcamp.com. Please check that out. Anyhow, thanks again for listening. Please feel free to subscribe to this podcast, write a review, or rate us. We'd love to hear from you. In fact, if you want to send us an email, it's hpmusicplace@gmail.com. For Father Malone and myself, thanks again for listening, and we'll see you again next time.
Night, Mr. Walters.